Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be giving you guys a rundown on how to use path building and hopefully can help you guys get you to making some builds yourself, I guess. So this is going to be kind of not traditional to my other videos. This is going to be a full-length live commentary tutorial. For the build that we're going to be using, we're going to be building cast on critical ice spear as an example. That way I can kind of operate and you guys can see how to do things and how I'm doing things, etc., etc. So first thing I'm going to point out is when creating a new build, you're going to want to select your class. Of course, you're going to select which if you're making a cast on crit ice spear build, and then choose the ascendancy, which will choose a cultist. The next thing I do is I go down to my ascendancies and I choose which ones I want. Um, Note that you cannot choose other ascendancies unless it's the one selected, or you have a forbidden flesh flame in your build. Um, okay, so we're going to take Unholy Authority, Frigid Wake plus Void Beaking, and as you can see, uh, it snaps to the end and will allocate to that node. So you don't have to do them one at a time. You can do them all together like that. So that's our ascendancies. Next, we would build the passive tree, or you can do items based on preference. We'll start with the passive tree, though, for me. So here you can see we have 0 out of 123 passive skill points to be spent on our passive tree. This is with all bandits killed, you get 123 points. Also note that Scion can get up to 128 points based on the ascendancies you choose down here. So we get 123, and then the 8 out of 8 is just the ascendancy points allocated. As you can see, as we take these out, it removes points from there. You will also see this button auto and the level. So it starts you off at level 1, and if you have it at auto, it'll level you up automatically as you go through the tree. Note that as you level up in this game, you do get passive base stats. As you can see, our base stats are increasing. So you can set it to manual and do things in a particular way. Say you want to make a leveling build and you only want to get it to level 64, you can set it to manual and then go and do your 70 or so points that you can get on the passive tree that way. But we'll set it to auto so that it does it as we go. And then we start building. Now, for casting critical ice spear, one of the major notes that you want to always take is throat seeker. So we can just auto path to that. And then from there, we also want to take chaos inoculation. So we can path to that. And then we are definitely going to want a large cluster jewel here. We definitely want influence. We're probably going to want aura increased effect. We're also probably going to want +3 to the level of all crit skills. So we'll take those. And then we'll come down here and we'll grab our max power charge and basic jewel socket. We'll keep going down. We'll grab this. And for my cast on critical ice spear build, we actually do a tattoo setup down here. So we'll allocate these nodes and we'll do the tattoos later. And then on this side of the tree, we want to grab instability. We want to path topwards because we're going to go around this way. And then we want the basic jewel as well. And then we're going to take Hexmaster. This is going to turn into inner conviction when we have our militant faith active. We're then going to path over to this large cluster. We're going to take our block chance, and then we're going to get crit multi for 10 energy shield. That's for our Aegis Aurora. We'll then come down and we'll grab Arcane Potency. We'll also grab increased crit multi there. We're going to then come down and grab this max power charge. Something to note is that sometimes it will path this node. For me, I want the int instead. Sometimes you want this node. Both are the same distance to the overcharge node, so something to consider when building. And for the time being, that's what we're going to fill out in the tree. So next we're going to go over to our items. As you can see, it's blank. Um, so first off, we have the rare selection down here, and then we have the unique selection here. So any unique you might want, let's say a mage blood, you can type it in the search bar, it'll come up. And then you can add it to your build. You can add it to your build either by dragging it in and then it'll start unused, or you can double click on it and it'll pull up this window on the side in which you can adjust your parameters. So we'll increase the strength to max because that's the Blessed Orb roll. We'll actually do it exactly how my build is set up. So we want 35 dexterity, and then we want, for fire resistance, we want 20. So that's good. And cold resistance, we want 21. And then leftmost 4 flasks. We also want to apply a catalyst. We want the attribute catalyst. We need to pull the dex down because it is at 35 with catalyst active. Wow, 36? Is that a mineral? Oh, mine doesn't have a catalyst on it because it's double corrupted. Um, so yeah, we'll just do that. That's fine. We don't have an influence for our mage blood, so we don't need to select any of these. We can apply an enchantment. We want the unnerve enchantment. So dedication to the goddess uh, is the gift you would use to in the lab to get this enchantment. That's all that means, is the source. And then this is all the belt enchantments you can get. So we'll take unnerve, and then we'll double corrupt ours. So you can click corrupt, and then you can go ahead and select out of the list of all the different corruptions that you can have. And we can have up to 2 implicits. Or corrupted implicits, I mean. We have 18 and 23. Yes, that is correct. And this is good to go. Now, if you wanted to add additional implicits, you could click the add implicit. For most items, it's going to have delve and custom. Most of them won't have alternate implicits. For custom, you just have, say you have a synthesis implicit you want to add, you can just add it in here and you just type it out exactly how you would type it out in any synth mod. So say like +1 to maximum power charges. Add. As you can see, it adds. Note that the color of the text matters. Green means that it's a customly added mod that is detected as a mod that will be affected in the POB, meaning POB recognizes this as a real modifier and will apply changes based on what that modifier does. Blue means that it was selected from their set of parameters, is guaranteed provided. And then red means could work but won't show up on the POB. So like magic utility flask effects cannot be removed. That won't show up on the POB. Magic utility flasks cannot be used. That's not going to show up on the POB. Do note that some red can be important, like projectiles return to you. Returning projectiles typically, I think almost always comes up as red in POB. It cannot be calculated in POB, so something to keep in mind. If you want to remove the implicit you just added, you go to edit, and this is our unique here. As you can see, it's actually pretty simple to break this all down. We have the title, the base type, the catalyst, the quality, the level requirement, the amount of implicits we have. So we want to set this to 3 because we're going to remove one of these implicits. We have the crafted hits unnerved, which is just the enchantment. And then we have the aura range, so it's giving us the aura, and then the range that we have it set at, which this 0.573 equals 18% on the scroller. Discipline aura effect. Same thing with the crit multiplier during flask effect. It's giving us a tag and then the range, and it gives us a range. As you can see, here's the range here, and we have half range. So it's going to put us at 23%. And then here's our custom modifier, which we're going to remove. +1 max power charges. So you just backspace that and delete it entirely. These are all our other roles and descriptors, and then of course it's corrupted as well. And you hit save, as you can see. Nothing changed to the Mage Blood except I removed that implicit. And now we're going to add this to our build. Now you can see now it's in this belt dropdown. So we can select none if we want to unequip it or equip it. You can add multiple belts to your build, and then you can select different ones here as well. So we have our Mage Blood, right? Let's just add our other uniques while we're here. So we got Ulnatol's Vow with Prismatic. Fire resistance is 27%. Almost a max roll. Cold resistance doesn't really matter. I think it's like 14% anyways. 15%, yeah, close enough. And then 25% lightning. Chaos resistance can be whatever. This is not corrupted, but we do want to anoint it. So we can search by name or modifier. So say you want like Onslaught as an anointment, but you don't remember the name of the mod. You can set that to modifier, so you could type Onslaught, and it'll show you all of the different Onslaught effect passives. Or we can go like maximum power charge. You can see all the power charge nodes on the tree. Of course, we want charisma, so we want to sort this by names, charisma. And we anoint that. As you can see, now it's added. And then we can add it to build. Do note that we do have selection of socket color. Also note that you do not have to mess with these socket colors to match your skills. The POB will ignore socket color requirements. So it's not important unless you want to specifically set it that way. So if I were to specifically set it that way, this would be blue, socket B. Not corrupted, no more implicits, not influenced, good to go, add to build. So now we have our Ulnatol's Vow in there. We're also going to want a Calandra's Touch. So we'll add that. Nothing to do here, just add that. And then we want Skin of the Loyal. Simple robe, and this is double corrupted with level of socketed gems and projectile gems. There we go. And it's 20%. Yes. Good to go. It's all set. Add to build. If you wanted to get particular, you can mess with the sockets. It just takes too much time for me to do it, so I don't do it in my POBs typically. But if you want to make a full descriptive POB and you want to be very specific, you can change the socket colors as well. Then we want the Aegis Aurora. Yeah, mine's perfectly rolled. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. Mine's perfectly rolled. It's not corrupted, so we don't need to do that. And also if your item has multiple versions, say like there's legacy versions of your item, you'll have a current tab selector here, and you can choose which version you want to use. So you can use your legacy items in that case, but ours is not legacy, ours is current. And if we were in Crucible, you could add Crucible nodes here as well. They're all listed. You just type them in, add them to the tree, and then you click add when you're done. Ours obviously doesn't have any Crucible mods on it because we're not in Crucible League anymore. And we'll add that to the build. The next unique we're going to add is our Dying Sun Ruby Flask. And we just want less duration to be at 40%. And we want to have Instilling Orb used when charges reach full. So that's where we can apply a shaman. Of course, we can choose legacy here as well. If we want to change the quality of the flask, we go to the edit, and then here on the quality, we just change this to 28%. And that will affect dynamically. So if you change this to 28%, every parameter will change accordingly. And then we can add that to the build. Okay, next we're going to start adding our rares. So what I like to do when making a rare item is I click this craft item button. Now, if you have an item that you already want, say I'm in this game, if I'm in PoE and I want to add these gloves to my build, I can hover over them and hit Control C. That'll copy it. And then I can create custom Control V and it'll paste it in. And there's the gloves right there. We have the gloves added directly if we want. The only issue is editing the parameters is a little difficult when you import like this. You have to do it through the text-based editor. Um, but if we wanted to make it from scratch, say we're theory crafting, we would go to craft item. We would select rarity type rare, and then we would go gloves, and ours is an energy shield base type. And then this is sorted by best to worst base type. Um, if it's not specific, I guess the way to put it. It'll do base energy shield rate, and then that goes for evasion and armor as well. And then the top ones will always be the ones with weird implicits. We want sorcerer gloves because we're doing eater, searing, influence. So we'll do that. And then we want searing, exarch, and eater of worlds influence. Now we want to add our Eldritch implicits, right? So we go add implicit. You can see it has it selected for us. So for the Searing Exarch, we want Unnerve. Now we want 25%. So 25% is grand. This is lesser, greater, grand, exceptional, exquisite, and perfect. So we want grand on that, and we add that, and then we go to add implicit again, go to Eater of Worlds, and we want cold exposure, and we want a perfect on cold exposure. Next, we put in our parameters here. So um, say I want a essence rolled energy shield, like the way my gloves are. I go add modifier. And then here we have crafting bench, essence, veiled, delve, custom. You'll be using this a lot when crafting items in PoB. We'll go to essence and we'll type in energy shield. You can see deafening essence of woe is the one we want. This is mine's a 44, I think. So we'll do that. Next, we want to add our veiled modifier. So we go to add modifier again. We go to veiled. We do elemental damage. If you want to check if this is a suffix or prefix, you can type pre. If nothing shows up, it's not a prefix. If you type suffix, so you can see it sticks around. So yes, that is a suffix modifier. Which the crit chance should have given that away anyway, since I'm pretty sure crit strike chance is a suffix only modifier, similar to how energy shield is a prefix only, attributes are suffix only, etc. Except for very niche cases. Okay, and then we want just our base mods. So we want to add a suffix, we want dex. We have a 55 on our dex. 55, okay. And then we have fractured, cold, increased damage hits against chilled enemies. So we have to add a custom modifier to make this work. We go plus 46% cold resistance. We have to add that first because we can only add one line at a time. So we add that. You can see it's green, so it worked. And then we add modifier again. And we do plus 49, or sorry, 49% increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. And that should light up green as well. Yes. So we have suffix, suffix, and then our other suffix is the cold resistance plus chilled enemies, which would be fractured. If I recall, to make it fractured, there's a tag you have to add. I have to look at my own gloves to tell you how to do this. Yeah, so it's the fractured tag. So what we would do is we go here, and then where it says custom, we would change this to say fractured. And custom, change this to say fractured. And now it shows up as fractured. So we have our fractured suffix, unveiled suffix, dex suffix, essence prefix, and then we want tier 1 energy shield as our other prefix, which is percent increased energy shield of 90 something percent. And then we go to our crafting bench modifier and we add flask effect. Damage during flask effect. Obviously that's going to be a max roll, so we select our list of scalable modifiers here and we'll set that to 28%. And now these are good to go. Of course, we can also improve the quality of the item, so we can go to 30% and save it, add that to our build. There, you got it. You got your gloves. Next, we'll craft our Tempest Tread Sork boots. So this is a double influence boots. So we go boot, energy shield, and these are Sork boots, of course. We're going to double influence these. We have it a Shaper Hunter. We have Tailwind, and we have 15% increased Tailwind effect. And then we have cooldown recovery rate. We have cooldown recovery rate is at a 15%. Yes, it's not elevated, which is fine because my build doesn't actually need it to be elevated. Just needs to be max rolled on tier 1. We then have unveiled movement speed. So we go veiled movement, and ours is the 10% increased move speed as well. You can adjust this parameter to however you see fit. Mine's at 27%. And then we have tier 1 increased energy shield, 100%, and a 50 to intelligence suffix. And then our bench mod is energy shield, max energy shield flat, 22. And then, of course, quality, once again, 30%. And yeah, I think that's my boots. And we add that to the build. Next, we have our helmet. Man, this helmet, I can't believe this helmet still exists in the game now. Okay, so we need to make a helmet. Ours is a Hubris Circlet, which is an energy shield. Hubris Circlet. Ours is double influenced with Redeemer and Warlord. I think it's Warlord. Yeah. We have maximum power charge. Increased flat energy shield of 57. We have int tier 1 at 60. And then we have nearby enemies have cold resistance minus 12. We also have aspect of the spider, so we add a custom. Grants level 20 aspect of the spider skill. This is a suffix. All of the Beastcraft mods like these, the grant level 20 whatevers, are suffixes. So we have suffix, 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 prefix, prefix, and then we have our bench, which is increased energy shield of 74%. And then I was crazy enough to double corrupt mine. Mine has socketed fire gems and 90% RMR. And we have ours at 30% quality. And put that on. Okay, next we have our Plague Grip Diamond Ring. Ours is mirrored. We go to ring. And we're just going to do a regular ring so that there's no implicits on it so that we can add our own. We have +1 to maximum power charges. Note, this isn't case sensitive, so like these can be uppercase or lowercase, however you want. It just will change how it looks in POB, but the it will detect it lowercase or uppercase, doesn't matter. Next we have 6% increased spell damage for power charge. And then we have, I think it's 26%. No, it's 24% plus 24% to global critical strike multiplier. We're also going to catalyst this with critical. Notice how the critical doesn't change your custom modifiers. If it has a custom tag, it does not know how to dynamically alter this with the rest of the modifiers on the item. So things like influence parameters, the amount of suffixes and prefixes you have, quality, stuff like that, and catalysts, like they won't affect your custom parameters. So you do have to do the math uh, in your head or on a calculator to figure that out if it's necessary. Minus 24% with the crit anointment or crit catalyst, so we're good here. Next we have tier 1 strength and tier 1 int, a 55 on both. And then we have global crit multi, which is a suffix essence global crit strike multiplier. Ours is max roll to fit 30%. And then we have energy shield 47. And then we have unveiled mana with reduced mana cost of 7% with a 55 max mana. And then we have our bench non-channeling 7 to 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ring is good to go. Add that to the build. Next we'll add our flasks. So QB will dynamically, automatically know that your flasks are active if you have a mage blood. So you don't have to worry about that. So we have a quicksilver flask to start here with increased effect. And I believe this one's reduced mana cost. So we go to the crafting bench, we grab reduced mana cost, 25. And then we want to apply our enkindling orb for 70%. Looks good. Add that to the build. Next, we'll craft another flask. We're going to go granite flask this time with increased effect and armor during effect, 60%. We also want to add our enkindling orb once again. Add that to the build. Then we have a diamond flask. Diamond flask has increased effect and additional elemental resistances and enkindling orb once again. And then we have our silver flask. Silver flask has increased effect and movement speed, 14%. And then we have enkindling orb at 69% on this. Yes, done on purpose. Now, if you so as you can see, this is to activate flasks. As you can see, nothing's going to change when I turn these on because Mage Blood is active. So these can be turned on or off, doesn't matter. We'll always keep them as active. But the unique flask, you do have to turn on to enable or disable the effects. As you can see, it's increasing my fire resistance currently. For now, we'll keep that turned off. Next, we'll move on to jewels. So adding jewels is quite simple. It's the same thing. We craft items. We go to jewels, type in jewel. We go to cluster. We'll start with our large cluster jewels. We want a 8 passive. So this is our passive selector. And we want to select cold damage. Now we want a prismatic heart, widespread destruction, which is a suffix, and blanketed snow. And then this one has +2 to dexterity. Or, yeah, +3. plus 3. And that's good to go. If you want to corrupt it, you can. Obviously, mine is not corrupted. Um, you can add custom modifiers if you need to. With jewels, you typically don't have to. If you want to rename it, go here. You can type in here whatever you want to call it. So I'll call it jewel gold 1, for instance. You can see it changes that. Now we can go in and put our jewel in. We can go back to our tree. We can select and allocate those. Now, if you want to make a jewel similar to this, you can select the jewel, hit Control C, and then Control V, and it'll put this up again. And then this one is +3 to all elemental resistances. And we add that to our build. As you can see, we have another one. And we'll make this gold 2. Save that, and we'll put that here. And add those. And then we want to add our third one, which will be jewel gold 3. Add to build, and that will go down here. Jewel gold 3. And we add those passives as well. Next, we're going to want to add a thread of hope. So we'll go down here into our unique search. We'll grab that. Ours has minus 18% with double corrupted, non-damaging ailments effect, and corrupted blood immunity. Add to build. Oh, if you want to select the ring size, you do it up here. We want a large ring, not a massive ring. And that's going to go right here. Something to notice is when you hover over jewel slots, you can tell, it'll show you an image and you can see the crosshairs will tell you exactly which jewel socket it's talking about. It pinpoints it directly. That way you can tell what you're doing. Next, we're going to want to add glancing blows, and we're grabbing divine shield, which will change with tattoos, and then light of divinity as well. We're also grabbing sovereignty here. Okay, next we want to add our medium cluster jewel. So we go back to here, we add medium instead. We go for passives, and these are, we got some projectile ones. We got eye-to-eye repeater with 8 intelligence and 7 lightning. And then we can name it Garage Med 1. And good to go, add to build. We'll put that here. And we'll allocate that. And then we want a similar one, so we select it. We just single click, select, Control C, Control V, and it adds it back here. And then we can edit the parameters once again. So our next medium cluster jewel is eye-to-eye repeater, 8 dex, and 6 lightning. Wait, 6? I need to divine roll that. Crazy. 7%. Okay, and then we add that. And then we want to put that next to the other one right there, so we don't get confused. We also want to rename that Garage Med 2, save, save, go to the tree, allocate the nodes. Next, we're going to want to add another medium cluster jewel. This one is eye-to-eye shrieking bolts, I'm pretty sure. So projectile damage, eye-to-eye shrieking bolts with strength and fire. Fortify fire. 4 to 5 strength. Add to build. We'll rename this Garage Med 3. Save that. We'll put that over here. Bing, boom. Okay. And the last one, eye Shrieking Bolts with Proj Speed. Okay, so we'll copy and paste this. Eye Shrieking Bolts with Proj Speed and +3 to all attributes. We go 3% Proj, +3 to all attributes. Add to build. Change that to Proj Med 4. And save that. We want to put that next to our other one. And allocate those nodes as well. And then we want to add our small cluster jewels. We want reservation efficiency with 3 passives. We want increased effect and energy shield. And then we have a 9 to 11 dexterity one with +3 to all elemental resistances. And we'll add that to our build. Yep, that's good to go. We'll just name it Res Cluster 1. Add to build. And we're going to put that attached to our mediums. We'll craft another one of those. This one's going to be quite similar, so we can Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste it. And we'll add 9 fire, 7 lightning as our suffixes for this one. 9 fire, 7 lightning. Add to build. Of course, we're going to want to rename that to Res Cluster 2. Save. That's going to go up here. And then we're going to craft one more. So Control-C, Control-V again. And this last one, I think, is 5 fire, 11 lightning. 5 fire, 11 lightning. Add to build. And we'll allocate that here. Gonna rename that one Res Cluster 3. Save that. Okay, we can go and allocate these now. Good stuff. Then gonna want to add a melding of the flesh, Cobalt Jewel. As good of a roll as we can get it. And just add that to our build. And we'll put that, yeah, there's fine. We're then gonna want to add our Watcher's Eye, which has Discipline, ES per hit, Determination, Phys damage reduction, and Hatred, crit chance. Our crit chance is a 1.76. Our ES on hit is a 29. And our Phys damage is 8. Add that to our build. And we'll put that... When... Am I missing a jewel socket? I feel like I'm missing a jewel socket. Where did I... 1, 2... Elding. Yeah. I'm not missing one. I'm just not seeing it. Oh, here it is. Okay. So we add our Watcher's Eye. Then we want our Cobalt Jewels. Whoops, Jewel. It's just a base jewel, Cobalt Jewel. Prefixes Energy Shield. Critical Strike Multiplier with Cold Skills. Critical Strike Multiplier with Spell Damage. And Critical Strike Multiplier with Elemental. Good enough. Something like that. Add that to our build. We'll call this Ritual. Save, and then we're just going to make a second copy of that. And those are going to go down into our large cluster down here. And then last, we need to add our Militant Faith. So Militant Faith and Timeless Jewels in general can be a little weird to pick up on POB. It does adjust based on like the seed and stuff because it's all determined now and all has been discovered. Which, by the way, if you ever want to figure out if a timeless jewel is good for you, you can go to, if you Google search timeless jewel calculator PoE, it's like the first link, it's a GitHub link. It's a timeless jewel calculator to tell you what your timeless jewel will do in what slot. Um, so we want Dominus for inner conviction. We want elemental damage and non-curse aura effect. Um, 6,000 is fine because I know it doesn't affect anything. As you can see now, we have inner conviction here. This is still +5 devotion with max power, so all good there. We have a few more skill points. Oh, of course, I'm missing this. Oh, and I'm missing this. This should be turned off. Okay. Next we'll do tattoos. So how to add a tattoo to your tree is quite simple. You right click a node and it replaces your modifier node. So we want the proj node here. So we'll type proj. We got skills fire an additional projectile. Add that. We also want cold, max cold res, max cold res, max cold res, max power charge. If your nodes aren't showing up, it's typically because your parameters are not met and therefore can't be added. For instance, you can't put an adds 3 to 5 cold damage on an int node. You can only put it on dex nodes. So if I were to go and try and do that on an int node, that parameter wouldn't show up. Instead, it would show me adds 2 to 3 chaos damage, I think is the int node. And then here we're going to be doing global defenses across the board. Since we have so much added intelligence, we can do global defenses, and global defenses has a slight edge to energy shield. I have a few of these are herald effect, but I'm not going to get too particular about it in this tutorial. I'm just going to go through and add all of these each individually. It is a pain to do this, let me tell you. And when you want to like mix and match or try different things, it's yeah, it's a workout for your arm for sure. But things we do for PoE. I've done worse things for PoE. No, you cannot change devotion nodes with tattoos because they are no longer stat travel nodes. They become devotion travel nodes. So they will change. I'm not sure about there are like I think one of the timeless jewels doesn't actually change that they are a stat travel node and therefore it can still be used with tattoos, but I haven't tested that, so I'm not sure. We're gonna keep the strength here because we're low on strength requirement and the rest is good to go. I don't think I missed any. Yep. So that's how you add tattoos, very simple. And now we go into our skills. So we're going to add our skills. So what I like to do is add weapon 1, weapon 2. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking new to add a new skill set. And then I'm selecting what item that skill set's going to be on. Gloves, boots. We're not going to do rings, amulets, or belts. So we can delete that one. And then I'm going to go over a few things in a second here, but let's add our skills first. So in our first weapon, we have Sniper's Mark. That is not Sniper's Mark. Here we go. And then we want Mark on Hit and Inspiration. Now it's a 2020 default inspiration. It's a 2020 Divergent mark on hit, and it's a 2120 default sniper's mark. So as you can see, here's the level parameters. This is the quality type parameter, and will always, as you can see, is pretty cool actually. It will tell you what it will do, so that you don't have to go and look it up somewhere else. And then quality parameters, and then here you can enable or disable them within the QB. So if you want to see how your damage pans out without Sniper's Mark, you can disable it. And you can also multiply how many times it's been affected. Uh, Things like Tornado Shot need to know this. When you're making a Tornado Shot build, your DPS calculates only one projectile, so you do have to then go and add your extra projectiles. So what you would do is on your Tornado Shot count, you would set this to like 10 if you're shooting 10 arrows, and that would give you a better description of what your actual DPS looks like. And then include in full DPS, if you have multiple damaging effects and you want to see like a full DPS breakdown, you would include it in the full DPS. And then enabled here just allows you to completely enable or disable that skill set. So moving on to number 2, we have Molten Shell with Frost Blink and Unbound Ailments Awakened. The level 520, 2120 Divergent, and 2120 Anomalous. And then in our helmet, we have Determination, Hatred, Foul Discipline, and Enlighten, Awakened. Awaken Enlighten 5. These are all level 21. This is 20%. These are not because they are default, and this one is anomalous. I like to disable foul variants on my gems because they're not always active. Actually, they're almost never active unless it's a main part of your skill, in which case you can enable it. But we do want to enable Discipline, of course, because it is an active aura. And yes, it is enabled in our helmet. Now it matters that we have helmet socketed in here because we have 90% RMR on our helmet. POB will calculate that with these auras, so it will add that multiplier to it because it's socketed into the helmet. Something to keep in mind. In our body armor, so Lunatil's Vow is a little strange with POB, so what I do is I just make a 7 link on the body armor, and POB just kind of lets you do it. But we have Ice Spear, Inspiration, Awakened, Cast on Critical Strike, Greater, Multiple Projectiles, whoops, Awakened, we have Cyclone, we have Empower, Awakened, and Power Charge on Critical. These are all 20%. Power Charge and Critical is Divergent. Awaken and Power is level 5. My Cyclone is Divergent 2120. I have level 6 GMP, level 6 Cast on Crit, level 2120 Anomalous, and 2120 Anomalous. So there you go. Now, it's cool how QB calculates Ice Spear, so you don't have to add count per projectile because it will do that for you. Here is your main skill. This allows you to change what parameters you're looking at. So as you can see, if I go to Sniper's Mark, it tells me the mana cost for my Sniper's Mark is 0. And then it tells me the trigger rate, crit chance, which doesn't matter. But you can see like for Molten Shell, it's a good way to check your AoE on stuff and your mana cost on things if you need to. Like my Frostblink, I can tell my mana cost. On my Frostblink, I can also tell that my Frostblink is dealing 36,000 damage, if that matters. But then we're typically going to be following this Ice Spear and then first form all projectiles. And then I'll show you why this number is so low right now in a second here. Just finish adding our gems. So we have Herald of Ice in our gloves, Purity of Ice, Tempest Shield, and Enlighten, Awakened. Awakened 5, 21, 21, 21, 20, 20, 20. Tempest Shield's Divergent, Purity of Ice Divergent, Herald of Ice Normal, Awaken Enlighten Normal. And then our boots, we have our Frostbite setup. So Frostbite, Vortex, Hex Touch, Awakened, and Bone Chill. 2020, 2020. I'm pretty sure my Hex Touch is a level 5 because level 6 doesn't change it. Yep. Then I have 2120 and 2120 Anomalous Frostbite with 2120 default. And we have Divergent Bone Chill. Okay. And then Aspect of the Spider shows up automatically. If you want to enable or disable your Aspect, you can come here. You can also enable and disable your Curse on hits here as well. So that's good to know. You can sort your gems by DPS. I don't really use this stuff. It's kind of, unless you have a huge list of things, doesn't really matter. And then there's some usage tips here on how to, copy and paste and enable and disable stuff on the fly with hotkeys. So now we have our skills all set up and good to go. Last, of course, I forgot we need to add the weapon. We have a rune dagger. Our rune dagger is an Imperial Skein. Okay, you know what? You've seen enough of these. I'm just going to copy and paste mine because it's a big list of parameters that would just take a ton of time to put in. So create custom. There you go. There's the dagger. All set and good. So now we're at 11 mil. Of course, now we need to go to our configs and make sure these are all correct. So we'll start from the top and go down, and I'll explain what they all do. Resistance penalty. This is based on axe. So if you're making a leveling POB, you could go for Act 5 minus 30%. That'll help you understand where your resistances lie a little better based on where you are in the game. Bandit quest. Kill all set to default because that's the Aramir. But if you end up helping out a bandit, you can select it here. For the major god, I'm running Lunaris. And minor god, I'm running Ralakesh. Yep. So those are your pantheons. Are you always on full energy shield? For the most part, I am. You can enable or disable this to influence your DPS however you want. So I'll decide, yes, I'm most often going to be on full energy shield unless I take a nasty hit. Ailment calculation mode. Just keep this on average, but if you want to see your damage on, like crits only, most often this won't change anything. And then EHP calculations can be based on how lucky you are. Ignore jewel limits. This helps if you are doing stuff that breaks the game, I guess. Not really important. Disable EHP gain on block / suppress. So this is because I have an Aegis Aurora. As you can see, it affects my EHP quite significantly to change that. Do you use power charges? Yes. Okay, there it goes. There's all the damage. We don't use frenzy or endurance charges. We do have onslaught. This won't change anything because Mage Blood is picking up that we have a Silver Flask active. Arcane Surge. Nope. Unholy Might. Nope. Am I fortified? Nope. Do I have Tailwind? Yes. This you do have to enable because, or you have to enable this. Both will do the same thing. Do I have adrenaline? No. Flask active? Yes. Which again, this doesn't change anything because Mage Blood tells us our flask is active. Am I on consecrated ground? No. Am I chilled? No. Um, have I been hit recently? Probably. Most likely. Is the enemy blinded? No. Burning? No. Chilled? Absolutely. Is the enemy frozen? Most likely. Most likely they probably are, but no. We'll say no. The enemy is exposed to cold. The enemy isn't shocked. The enemy is unnerved. Um, they're not covered in ash or covered in frost. I will have 3 spider stacks. I am channeling Cyclone. I'm not casting on Frostbolt. Molten Shell damage mitigation. If you want to do damage mitigation for Molten Shell and test with that, you can. Um, or we'll just take an average mitigation. Map modifiers, you can tell how your build will perform in a specific map. If you want, you can change the map modifiers here. Uh, Typically, when making a POB, you're not going to mess with this. You are going to mess with the enemy stats, though. The default that people use is Guardian Pinnacle Boss. So whenever you see most POBs, if not like every POB, they're going to use Guardian Pinnacle Boss as their baseline. Um, and yeah, that's how you set up configs. And then if we enable Dying Sun, 142 million DPS, sounds about right. I'm looking at my build, and my build has a 166 million. And I'm a little confused as to what's different, because these, currently, in the way they're set up, are identical to each other. Oh, I know what's different. Yeah. No, I know what's different. Um, the skill tree is a little messed up on the other one that I was doing. So yeah, this is technically the build would be done at this point. We've got all our passives, we got all our items, we got all our skills, everything's good, enabled, set up the way we want it to. Um, I'm just gonna now walk you through a few extra things that might be helpful for you. Um, you can go to your notes tab here. If you click notes, in here, nothing changes within your build. When you do things in here, you can just add notes. So say you're selling a build, you can list out all the items and their prices in here. You can type whatever you want in here. If you select one of these, it'll change the color of your text. That's all it does. Doesn't do anything else. And of course, there's helpful tips and tricks up here as well. You can use the caret followed by a hex code or number to set the color. Um, you can zoom in and out on your text. Control 0 to reset. Whatever you want to do. Color codes. You can also show and hide if you're colorblind, if that becomes an issue, if somebody else has notes already in their POB and you're trying to read them and you're colorblind, you can do that. Something else I want to add about the config, if you're trying to experiment with something or trying to figure something out, like say I'm trying to figure out if I have a perfect trigger rate, how I would get there, I could go like 1% increased attack speed. As you can see, that brings my attack rate backwards because I overcap. But as you can see, that is a working parameter. A working parameter will show up in blue. If it's not working, it will show up in red. I think situational show up in green. Now, if you're doing minions and animate guardian, I want to point out that in the Calcs tab, which we'll go over this in a second, you can select your skill, and then you can select the active skill and then the skill part. Say you're doing skeleton mages. To figure out your skeleton mage damage, you could select skill part and select skeleton caster, I think is what it's called. That will allow you to see your calculation on your effective DPS for your skeleton mages. Of course, you'll want to multiply that by however many casters you have at any given time. Here it's just calculating your base damage, and then your multipliers, your more percentage, and then your hit damage. So here, as you can see, we only have flat cold, and then we have 305% increase on cold and 91% more on cold, which gives us an effective DPS modifier of times 2,934, ends up giving us about 185,000 to 278,000 DPS. Skill hit average is then calculated on crits, so it's then multiplied by 609. Or sorry, it's multiplied by 6, 609%, right? So 6.09%. And then, of course, enemy elemental resistances and everything else is calculated in, and then multiplied by how many times it's cast per second to give you your damage per second. Here we can see our attack hit rate, how often we're going to crit. And as you can see, whenever you hover over any modifier, it tells you exactly how it got to the result. And if you left click on the modifier, it'll hold this window so you can actually go and identify where these things are located. Extremely, extremely useful if you're trying to figure out why something is or isn't working. So like here, I can tell where my mana cost reduction is coming from. Stuff like that. This is very well broken down. Down here, we can see kind of this stuff's kind of fluff. Basically, all of this is converted to this over here, but this basically tells you what your max hit for each element and fizz and chaos damage is. Basically, your defenses. Up here is your attributes, and then your attributes required. This is a good way to check where you're getting attributes and what's costing you attributes. Here's our life base modifiers. This tells us how much life we're getting from our gear, how much we're getting from our tree, how much we have base, how much we have increase, how much more, and then, of course, we have chaos inoculation, so we have 1 life. Energy shield, it's the same way as the life. Tells you where things are coming from. Mana, same way. Ward, same way. Resistances, this just tells you how you get your resistances. The numbers are number followed by overcap. So with Dying Sun active, I have 85% fire resistance with 67 overcap, which means more resistance over the top. It's important to have overcap in resistances because some things inflict exposure and stuff like that, and you'll want to have protection against at least like a 10% penetration. Can be important. Like if an enemy penetrates 10% of your cold resistance, it's important to have at least like 10 overcap so that you stay at your 85 or your 75%. And then we have our armor calculations, evasion calculations. Here we have damage avoidance and block chance, dodge chance, suppression chance, flask effect. And then something that's important that's actually useful here is our other avoidance and ailment defense. So here we can tell we have 100% duration on each of these ailments, which means if we are inflicted with these ailments, we will take that ailment for 100% of the duration, and we'll take 100% of the effect. If this number is 0, that means we take no effect and no duration. And then we have other avoidance. So I have freeze and chill avoidance because of the ascendancy, and we have blind duration avoidance. I think that's, I don't know where that's coming from, but yeah, basically that's that. Stun avoid chance, this is calculated incorrectly. Immunity, POB struggles at detecting immunity. For instance, we have immunity to shock with Tempest Shield. Buff grants immunity to shock. We also have stun avoidance. Oh, they haven't added that yet. This is supposed to be tattooed unwavering stance, but I cannot change that yet. Is there an update, I wonder? But yeah, typically you would right click this and change it to unwavering stance, but I should also be stun immune here. Hey YouTube, I just wanted to add something at the end of the video that I forgot to go over. Down here, when you're looking at the passive tree, here you can manage your trees and you can add multiple trees if you have a section of your tree you want to level first, then a section you level second. If you're trying to make like a leveling pathway to get from, level 1 to 100 and how all the skill points are supposed to go throughout your journey to level 100, you can do it here. It allows you to kind of break down even further how you're supposed to level the tree among just having the tree there itself. I also want to add that there is a version selector here, so you can change what passive tree you're making your build on. I know Ruthless is different, so if you want to make a Ruthless tree, you can swap to Ruthless passive there. You can also import and export your trees, and then also you can show node power. So something I like to do is when I'm making my build and I'm trying to compare, like, oh, I have like 1 or 2 extra points, but I don't know where to put them. You can turn on show node power or use the hotkey P, and that will give you a power report breakdown. Nodes with blue are defense, nodes with red are damage, nodes that are pink are both, um, or a mix of both to some degree. And how deep the color is how much that effect will add. So as you can see, like here, Mastermind of Discord would give me 25 million DPS if I could fit that. Unfortunately, I can't. But um, as you can see, if I wanted to get Malicious Intent plus 2 to level of all curse skills, that would add 4.4 million hit DPS, or 5 million if I allocated all the way to that node. You can also change how the power report breakdown works. So if I want to see what's going to give me the most, if I want to see what's going to give me the most strength, you can turn strength on. You have to give it a moment, but it'll go and find all of the nodes with strength to give you an idea. It can be a little slow and laggy. Obviously, the nodes that don't do anything are going to be left dark like this. But yeah, you can see like Might 30 Strength is going to be lit up the most, right? What I like to do is I go to hit DPS and then I do, you got to give it a second. But after it's done loading, you can tell if it's done loading when it stops being all framey and laggy. You just kind of move it around and then eventually it won't be slow. And it usually starts from bottom and goes upwards as well. So like here, you can tell it's pretty much done. Okay, so once it's done, you can then go to show power report, and this will show you the highest amount of damage that you could get on the tree, or those notables, or those passives, and how many points it takes to get there, and then how much damage you're getting per point. So what you can do is you can search by how many points it takes you to get there. So I want 1 point. So the highest damage I can get for 1 point is Tranquility, which is right here. In order to get Tranquility, you have to anoint it. So I can't get that. But next best would be Cold Damage. I think is this node, yeah. And then we got like Curse Effect. Also, if you click on them, it will bring you on the tree to where those nodes are. And then you click once, and then you click again, and you can manage the tree again. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. You could also do your node power. So if you do show allocated nodes, you sort by DPS, you can see what nodes are giving you the most damage and how much damage you'll lose if you unallocate them. So for instance, if I unallocate Inner Conviction, I'll lose 41 million damage. So that can be helpful as well. Yeah, that's something I just wanted to add at the end. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.